After a few weeks of unusual murders, the detestable unknown killer continues to strike. With scarce evidence at hand, a child claims to have survived one of the attacks by the criminal and bravely shared his story. I had a bad dream and woke up in the middle of the night. For some reason, my window was open, but I remember closing it before going to bed. I got up and closed it again. Then, I got back under my blankets and tried to fall asleep again. It was at that moment when I had a strange feeling, as if someone was watching me. I looked up and jumped out of bed. There, under a faint ray of light that illuminated them through my curtains, I saw 2 eyes. They weren't normal eyes. They were dark, chilling. They were outlined in black, and they simply terrified me. Then I saw its mouth. It had a huge, horrifying smile that sent shivers down my spine. The being remained there, staring at me. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, it spoke to me. A simple phrase, but spoken in a way that only a deranged person could speak. It told me, "Go back to sleep." I screamed, and that's what made it come closer to me. It pulled out a knife and aimed it at my heart. It jumped onto my bed. I fought against it, kicked it, punched it. I struggled to push it away. It was at that moment when my dad entered. The man wounded him with his knife in the shoulder. He probably would have killed him if one of the neighbors hadn't called the police. They went down to the parking lot and ran towards the door. The stranger turned and fled down the hallway. I heard what sounded like glass breaking. When I came out of my room, I saw that the window at the back of my house was broken. From there, I saw him disappearing in the distance. I can assure you one thing. I will never forget that face. Those cold, sinister eyes and that psychopathic smile. They will never leave my mind. The police are still searching for this man. If you notice someone who fits the description from this story, please contact your local police department. Jeff and his family had just moved to a new neighborhood. His father had been promoted at work, and they decided to start living in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his brother Liu couldn't complain. They would have a new and better house. How could they not love it? As they were unloading their belongings, one of the neighbors arrived. "Hello, I'm Barbara," she introduced herself. "I live across the street. I just wanted to say hello and introduce you to my son, Billy. These are our new neighbors." Billy greeted them and ran off to continue playing in his garden. "Well, I'm Margaret," said Jeff's mom. "This is my husband Peter and my sons, Jeff and Lou." After the introductions, Barbara invited them to her son's birthday party. The kids were about to decline before their mother said they would love to attend. When Jeff and his family finished unpacking, the boy approached his mother. "Mom, why do we have to go to a kid's party? In case you haven't noticed, I'm not a silly kid anymore." "Jeff, we just moved here. We have to get along with our neighbors. We are going to that party. That's final." Jeff wanted to protest, but he stopped knowing it wouldn't do any good. When his mother said something, it was final. He went to his room and lay down on his bed. He sat there, looking up at the ceiling when suddenly he had a strange sensation. He didn't feel very uncomfortable, but it was a weird feeling. He didn't pay much attention to it. He heard his mother calling him to pick up his things, so he went to get them. The next day, Jeff went downstairs for breakfast and got ready for school. While he was sitting, eating his breakfast, he experienced that sensation again. This time, it was stronger. He felt a slightly painful tug, but once again, he dismissed it. When he and Lou finished breakfast, they went to the bus stop and sat down to wait for it. Suddenly, a kid on a skateboard jumped over them, just inches above their heads. The kids jumped back in fright. "Hey, what the hell?" The kid landed and turned to face them. He kicked his skateboard and caught it with his hands. He looked about 12 years old, just a year younger than Jeff. He was wearing an Aeropostale shirt and ripped blue jeans. Well, well, well. It seems we have some fresh meat here. Suddenly, 2 more kids arrived. One was extremely skinny, and the other was very large. Well, since you're new around here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. This is Keith. Jeff and Lou looked at the skinny kid. He had such a stupid face that one would think he had some mental delay. And this is Troy. They looked at the fat kid. Talk about a barrel of lard. This kid seemed like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. And I, said the first kid, am Randy. Now, for all the kids in this neighborhood, there's a little price to pay to get on the bus, if you know what I mean. Lou stood up, ready to give the kid a black eye when one of his friends pulled out a knife. Tesk. I was hoping you'd be more cooperative, but it looks like we'll have to do this the hard way. Huh? The bully approached Lou and took his wallet from his pocket. Jeff had that sensation again. Now it was really strong, an unbearable burning feeling. He got up, but Lou gestured for him to sit down. Jeff ignored him and went up to the kid. Listen to me, stupid punk. Give my brother's wallet back, or else. Randy pocketed the wallet and pulled out his own knife. Oh, or else, what are you going to do? Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff punched him in the nose. When Randy tried to scratch his face, Jeff grabbed his wrist and broke it. Randy screamed, and Jeff snatched the weapon from his hand. Troy and Keith ran to attack Jeff, but he moved fast. He pushed Randy to the ground. Keith tried to charge at him, but Jeff dodged him and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the floor, screaming. Troy also attacked, but Jeff didn't even need the weapon. He just punched Troy in the stomach, making him fall. As he did, he vomited uncontrollably. Lou looked at his brother in astonishment. Jeff, how did you do that? They saw the bus approaching, and knowing they would be blamed for what happened, they ran away as fast as they could. As they fled, they looked back and saw the bus driver rushing over to Randy and his friends. When the brothers arrived at school, they didn't dare talk about what had happened with anyone. All they did was sit and listen. Lou could only think of his brother giving some kids a lesson. But Jeff knew there was something more to it, something that scared him. When he experienced that sensation, when he felt how powerful he was, the impulse to hurt someone. He didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help feeling happy. He felt that strange sensation leaving him, and he remained away from school all day. Even as he walked home, he felt happy. When he arrived home, his parents asked him how his day had been, and he replied with a slightly dark voice, "It was a wonderful day." The next morning, someone knocked on the door of his house. He went downstairs to find 2 police officers at the door, and his mother looked at him angrily. "Jeff, these officers tell me that you attacked 3 kids. That it wasn't just a regular fight and that they were stabbed." Stabbed. Son. Jeff's gaze fixed on the floor, confirming to his mother that it was all true. "Mum, they were the ones who pulled out the knives and threatened me and Lou." "Son," said one of the police officers, "we found 3 kids, 2 of them injured, another with a bruise in his stomach, and we have witnesses who confirmed that you ran away from the scene. Now, what do you have to say about that?" Jeff knew it was futile. Even if he said that he and Lou had been attacked, there was no evidence to prove they weren't the ones who attacked first. He couldn't say that they hadn't run away because, in fact, they had. So Jeff couldn't defend himself or Lou. "Son, call your brother." Jeff couldn't do it. It was he who had hurt those kids. "Sir, it was me. I was the one who hurt those kids. Lou tried to stop me, but he couldn't." The police officer looked at his partner, and they both nodded. "Well, son, it looks like a year in the juvenile center." "Wait!" Lou shouted. Everyone looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled out their guns and aimed at Lou. I was the one who hit those little punks. I have the marks to prove it. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing a few cuts and bruises, as if he had fought with someone. "Son, just drop the knife?" the officer asked. Lou raised the knife and let it fall to the ground. With his hands up, he approached the police officer. "No, Lou, it was me. I did it," Jeff cried. "Oh, poor brother," trying to take the blame for what I did. "That's it. Take me away," Lou said. The officers took Lou to the patrol car. "Lou, tell them it was me. Tell them I was the one who hurt those kids," Jeff pleaded. Jeff's mother held him by the shoulders. "Jeff, please, you don't have to lie. We know it was Lou. Stop it." Jeff watched helplessly as the patrol car drove away with Lou inside. A few minutes later, his father arrived at the entrance, saw the look on Jeff's face, and knew something was wrong. Son, what's wrong?" Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained from crying so much. Instead, Jeff's mother approached his father to give him the bad news, while the boy cried on the porch. About an hour later, the boy entered the house and noticed that his parents looked surprised, sad, and disappointed. He couldn't even look at them. He couldn't bear to see how they thought of Lou when it was all his fault. He went to sleep, trying to forget about the whole thing. 2 days passed without any news of Lou. He didn't have any friends to hang out with. He only felt sadness and guilt. That was until Saturday, when Jeff was awakened by his mother, who looked happy and radiant. "Jeff, today is the day," she announced, opening the curtains and letting the light into his room. "What? What day is today?" "Today is Billy's party." "Mom, you must be kidding, right? You don't expect me to go to a children's party after." He stopped. "Jeff, we both know what happened. I think this party could be something that cheers us up after these last few days. Now, get dressed." Jeff's mother left the bedroom and went to get ready. The boy struggled to get up. He picked a shirt and jeans at random and went downstairs. He saw his mother and father dressed formally. Why did they have to wear such elegant clothes to a children's party? "Son, is that all you're going to wear?" his mother asked. "Better than being overdressed." His mother held back the urge to yell at him and forced a smile. "Well, Jeff, we may be too fancy, but that's how you dress if you want to make a good impression," his father said. Jeff grumbled and went back upstairs to his room. "I don't have fancy clothes." "Just choose something," his mother said. He looked in his closet for something showy. He found a pair of black formal pants that he only wore on special occasions and a shirt. However, he couldn't find a shirt to wear on top. He only had striped and patterned shirts, nothing suitable to wear with dress pants. In the end, he grabbed a white hoodie and put it on. "You're going to wear that?" his parents complained. His mother looked at her watch. "Oh, there's no time to change. Let's go." They crossed the street to Barbara and Billy's house and rang the doorbell. Barbara, like Jeff's parents, was too fancy. As they entered the house, all Jeff could see were adults and no kids. "The kids are in the backyard. Jeff, why don't you go join them?" Barbara suggested. Jeff stepped out into a yard full of children. They were all running around in strange cowboy outfits, shooting each other with plastic guns. Suddenly, a kid approached him and handed him a toy gun and a hat. "Hey, want to play with us?" he asked. I'm not a kid. I'm too old for this stuff," Jeff replied. The boy looked at him with a pleading face. "Please," he insisted. "Fine," Jeff grumbled. He put on the hat and pretended to shoot at the kids. At first, he thought it was completely ridiculous, but then he started to have fun. It might not have been anything amazing, but at least it helped him forget about Liu. So, he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise. A strange sound of something rolling, and then it hit him. Randy, Troy, and Keith hopped the fence on their skateboards. Jeff dropped the fake gun and took off the hat. Randy glared at him. "Hey, Jeff, right? We've got unfinished business." Jeff noticed Randy's bruised nose. "I think we're even. I gave you a beating, and you got my brother sent to reform school." Randy gave him a menacing look. "Oh, I didn't come here to lose. I came to win. Maybe you kicked our asses that day, but not today." As he spoke, Randy rushed towards Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched him in the nose, and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and hit his head. Then he pushed him away, and both got back on their feet. Kids were screaming, and parents were running out of the house. Troy and Keith pulled out their guns. "Nobody interfere, or we'll gut you," they threatened. Randy grabbed his knife and stabbed Jeff in the shoulder, making him cry out and fall to his knees. Then Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabbed his foot and twisted it, making him fall to the ground. Randy got up and walked towards the back door. Troy intercepted him. "Need help?" he asked, lifting Jeff by the collar and throwing him through the patio door. When Jeff tried to get up, he received another round of kicks that made him cough up blood. "Come on, Jeff. Fight me," Randy taunted. Randy saw an empty vodka bottle in the kitchen and smashed it over Jeff's head. "Fight! Come on, Jeff! Look at me!" Jeff looked up with his face covered in blood. "I'm the one who sent your brother to reform school. And now you'll sit here while he rots there for a whole year. You should feel ashamed." Jeff started to get up. "Oh, finally. You're standing up to fight." F stood there, his face covered in blood and vodka. Once again, he felt that strange sensation, one he hadn't experienced in a long time. "Finally, he's on his feet," Randy exclaimed as he ran towards him. And then it happened. Something inside Jeff broke. His psyche shattered, all rational thoughts vanished. All he wanted to do was kill. He grabbed Randy and threw him to the ground. Straddling him, he punched him directly in the heart, causing him to stop breathing. Randy gasped, struggling for air. Jeff continued to strike him. Blow after blow, blood gushed from Randy's body until he exhaled his last breath and died. All eyes were on Jeff now. The parents, the terrified children, even Troy and Keith. Though they avoided his gaze, they didn't hesitate to point their guns at him. Upon noticing this, Jeff ran to the stairs. Troy and Keith fired at him, missing every shot. Jeff tried to escape, hearing them following closely behind. When they ran out of bullets, Jeff locked himself in the bathroom. He took the towel rack and pulled it off the wall. Troy and Keith rushed in with their knives raised. Troy attacked Jeff with his knife, but he dodged it and smashed the towel rack into his face. When Troy fell unconscious, Keith let go of his knife and grabbed Jeff by the neck, pushing him against the wall. A bottle of bleach fell from the top shelf, dousing them and making them scream in pain. Jeff wiped his eyes as best he could. He threw the towel rack at Keith's head, and as he lay on the floor bleeding, he grinned sinisterly. "What's so funny?" Jeff asked. Keith pulled out a lighter and ignited it. "What's funny is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol." Jeff's eyes widened as Keith threw the lighter at him. As soon as the flame made contact with his skin, the bleach ignited. The alcohol burned him, and the bleach bleached his skin. Jeff let out a horrible scream as he desperately tried to put out the fire, but it was futile. He was now an inferno. He ran down the hallway and fell down the stairs. The guests screamed in horror as they saw Jeff engulfed in flames, falling to the ground, practically dead. The last thing the boy saw was his mother and the other parents trying to extinguish the fire. He fainted at that moment. When he woke up, his face was wrapped in bandages. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulder and stitches piercing through his entire body. He tried to get up, but soon realized there was a tube in his arm. When he attempted to sit up again, he fell, and a nurse rushed in. "It's not safe to get out of bed yet," she said as she helped him lie back down and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat on the bed with no vision and no idea of what was happening around him. Only after several hours he heard his mother enter the room. "Sweetie, are you okay?" she asked. Jeff wanted to answer, but with his face covered, he couldn't speak. "Oh, sweetheart, I have excellent news for you." After all the witnesses testified to the police that Randy confessed to trying to attack you, they decided to release Liu. Upon hearing this, Jeff wanted to move but stopped halfway, remembering the tube in his arm. He'll be out of reform school tomorrow, and then you can be together again. His mother hugged him and said a tender goodbye. During the following weeks, Jeff received visits from his family. Later, the day came when they removed the bandages. His family was there, eager to see how he would look. As the doctors removed the bandages from the boy's face, everyone was on edge. They waited patiently as the last bandage covering his face started to come off. "Let's hope for the best," the doctor said. He quickly pulled the cloth, letting the rest fall off Jeff's face. His mother let out a scream of horror. Lou and his father stared at him in astonishment. "What? What happened to my face?" Jeff exclaimed. He jumped out of bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw the cause of the commotion. His face. It was horrifying. His lips remained burned raw, showing as a grotesque red spot. His face was completely white, and his hair had been scorched from brown to black. He slowly brought his hands to his face. The skin felt scaly and hard. He looked at his family and then looked back at himself in the mirror. "Jeff," Lou said, "it's not that bad." "Not that bad?" Jeff shrieked. "It's perfect." His family was stunned by his words. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed his left eye and hand twitching disgustingly. "Jeff, son, are you okay?" "Okay? I've never felt happier." "Ha ha ha ha! Look at me! This face is perfect for me." He couldn't stop laughing. Jeff caressed his face, reveling in its touch, looking at himself in the mirror. What had caused this? Well, you have to remember that when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity, broke. Unbeknownst to them, they had turned him into a crazy killing machine. But his parents didn't know that. "Doctor," his mother murmured, "my son. He's okay, you know. Is it from his head?" "Oh, yes. This behavior is common in patients who have taken a large amount of painkillers. If his behavior doesn't return to normal in a few weeks, bring him back for a psychological test." "Oh, thank you very much, doctor." Jeff's mother approached her son. "Jeff, sweetheart, it's time to go." Jeff looked away from the mirror, his face still contorted into a maniacal smile. "Okay, Mommy." "Ha ha 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 ha." "This is what he was wearing," said the hospital receptionist. Jeff's mother received the black trousers and white sweater her son had worn on the day of the party. They were now free of blood, but had been sewn together. The woman took it to his room and helped him put on the clothes. Then they went home, unaware that it would be the last day of the family's life. That night, the woman woke up to the sound of crying in the bathroom. Slowly, she approached to see who it was. When she looked in, she had a horrifying vision. Jeff had taken a knife and cut his mouth to simulate an enormous smile that extended to his cheeks. "Jeff, what are you doing?" "Tia." Jeff looked at her. "I couldn't keep smiling, Mommy." It hurt after a while. Now I can smile forever. Jeff's mother noticed his eyes, practically black. Jeff, your eyes. His eyes seemed unable to close. I couldn't see my face. I got tired, and my eyes started to close. I burned my eyelids to see myself forever with my new face. The woman began to step back, seeing the dementia in her son's state. What's wrong, Mommy? Aren't I pretty? Yes, son. You are. Let me go get Daddy so he can see your face. She ran to her room and woke up her husband. Honey, grab your gun. We have. She stopped when she saw Jeff at the door, holding a knife. Mommy, you lied to me, was the last thing they heard before Jeff stabbed them, killing them instantly. Lou woke up, startled by the noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he simply closed his eyes and tried to go back to sleep. As he was about to fall into a deep sleep, he had the strange feeling that someone was watching him. He opened his eyes before Jeff's hand covered his mouth. Slowly, Jeff raised the knife, ready to plunge it into Lou's chest. The boy thrashed violently, trying to escape from his brother. Shh, Jeff whispered. Just go back to sleep.